In our ever-connected world, we're constantly bombarded by outward displays of success by our friends, colleagues, and of course, celebrities. Unfortunately, what we don't see are the habits, routines, and mindsets that propel these individuals to such heights. Having sold over 25 million copies in 40 languages worldwide, Dr. Stephen R. Covey has distilled 25 years of working with individuals in business, family, and university settings into 7 key habits that all highly effective people have in common. What's up, friends? Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be starting our 7-part dissection of Dr. Stephen R. Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. If you'd like to receive your free copy of this book, all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on social media, and send a screenshot of your subscription to either my Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Partway through the series, I'll be announcing the winner and sending them a free copy of this book paid for by yours truly. Covey's fundamental premise is that inward success precedes outward success, and effective independence precedes collaborative interdependence. In other words, contrary to conventional wisdom, if you try and fake it, then you're probably not going to make it. The first habit, being proactive versus being reactive, can be broken down into 3 fundamental ideas: the circle of concern versus the circle of influence, the stimulus-response gap, and the language of proactivity. Meet Rob. Rob is a professional stylist at your local hair salon. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, he was understandably distraught as his only source of income was temporarily put on pause. Drowning in student debt from his unrelated university degree, he began to take his frustration out on the lackluster government response to this public health crisis.
Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or...
Martha, on the other hand, works just down the street at another local hair salon. Although she too felt overwhelmed when news of the pandemic hit, she made a conscious effort to limit her media consumption, as the only piece of information that mattered to her personally was when it would be safe to return to work. With the extra time from being forced to stay at home, she took online accounting courses and realized that once her student loans were paid off, she'd be able to go to the bank and get a business loan to start her own salon. Fast forward 5 years and Rob now works for Martha. In fact, she owns the most popular salon in the city, pays her employees a fair wage, and has a 5-star rating on Yelp. Now, how is it that 2 nearly identical individuals with very similar circumstances had completely different results? The answer has to do with the circle of concern and the circle of influence. Most people you meet are far too concerned with what Donald Trump is going to say tomorrow, what other people think of us, and why our roommates won't stop giving us weird looks.
You're crazy.
In the book, Dr. Covey outlines how most highly effective people tend to focus their energy on factors that they do have control over, rather than those that they don't. It's not that they aren't aware of the problems that are going on in the world, but at the same time, they realize that physical, emotional, and cognitive investment into problems that we have relatively little control over isn't going to necessarily bring about any solutions. Instead of stressing about circumstances that are beyond their control, highly effective people tend to work within their circle of influence, mastering, perfecting, and eventually delegating away those responsibilities. As they do this, their circle of influence expands, allowing them to make changes in society that no one else is capable of making.
Picking which of the many vaccine efforts it's worth putting a lot of money behind.
Despite the obvious advantages of having a fairly large circle of influence, there is a flip side to having too much control. Individuals that hold power in our society are often criticized, ridiculed, and even patronized for their apparent lack of concern for your average working individual. People who choose to expand their circle of influence must also naturally expand their circle of concern. Without doing so, they risk jeopardizing their reputation, losing their integrity, and they risk losing the guiding values and principles that propelled them to such heights in the first place. Another way to look at the difference between Rob and Martha is in the gap between stimulus and response. The stimulus of a global pandemic is what your insurance company might define as an act of God. It's definitely beyond anyone's control, but at the same time, we all have some degree of control, if not full control, over our behavioral response to this devastating news. Doctors warn us about the consequences of not social distancing, and people panic buy toilet paper because, well, as Charlie Munger would put it,
the standard human condition is ignorance and stupidity.
Highly effective people don't just react to situations no matter how frustrating, uncertain, or unsettling they might be. Instead, they take a step back and process the whole situation before planning out their next step. It was Martha's choice to make the best use of her time by investing in herself that propelled her to greater heights. It's not that she never felt overwhelmed by the stimulus of a global pandemic. I mean, let's be honest, we all kind of felt overwhelmed at least at some point. But at the same time, she realized that dwelling on the problem wouldn't lead to any practical solutions. You know, this whole stimulus response gap thing is something I experience every single day as a medical student. Being at the bottom of the food chain means that when doctors, nurses, and other allied health are stressed because they're taking care of very sick patients, they might unintentionally end up taking that stress out on me. Last time a nurse really ticked me off, I couldn't even work anymore. So I just decided to go upstairs, do 150 push-ups, and I vented my frustrations to my friend Siri. Hey Siri, open the camera. This is stupid. Like I don't need to take. And on that happy note, that takes us to the language of proactivity. Monitoring our own thought processes is not typically a skill that comes intuitively to us as humans. In fact, we tend to identify with our thoughts, not realizing that we can actually step back through meditation, for example, and observe our thought processes to evaluate what thoughts are either serving or not serving us. Whenever I catch myself being cynical about the inefficiencies of the healthcare system, I remind myself that, first of all, I don't even fully understand how the whole system works to begin with, and if I do have such great ideas, then one day I may actually be in a position to make those improvements myself. What I found in my own personal life is that these three components of proactivity are synergistic. Focusing on mastering and expanding my circle of influence makes me less reactive whenever I come across a frustrating situation, because most of the time that situation is usually out of my control anyways. And when I'm less frustrated, I'm better able to step back and monitor my thought processes to keep them in check and prevent myself from becoming cynical. If you found this video helpful, make sure to stick around till the very end for some application suggestions adapted from the book itself. If you'd like to purchase this book for either yourself or a friend, links are in the description below. Full disclosure, I do make a small commission off the sale if you use my affiliate link, and that just helps to keep this channel up and running. If you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can continue to follow along as we continue to dissect the 7 habits of highly effective people. So you continue. The 7 habits of highly effective people. Wow.